All right, well, let's go with mentoring. What's in it for me? If you don't know me, I'm Marilyn Latchford. I am a long-term Toastmaster. I think it's 20 years that I have been a Toastmaster, and I've enjoyed every opportunity and every reward that came into my path. I truly believe that the Toastmasters is a journey of possibilities, and mentoring is one of the most rewarding roles that you can achieve or put yourself out to. And today we're going to talk about mentoring as a whole, but we're also going to look at the new Pathways mentoring program. And I think that you'd be pleasantly surprised what it has to offer. Dumbledore says happiness can be found in the darkest of time if only one turns on the light. And I believe that mentoring really turns on the light of what they call now proteges. And it is rewarding because you get to watch people find their own way and then light up the world because they actually are doing things that they think is impossible. So today what we will do is we will go through a number of slides, but I will also introduce a number of breakout rooms so you get to discuss some of the questions that I'm going to be proposing. And also we're going to have somebody report back afterwards and talk for about 2 minutes on what they found out in their group. So the groups will be randomly determined by our Zoom master, who is Chris Nelson. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and then Chris will be able to collect them and we could answer them now. And there will be a question and answer session at the end that you will be able to ask your questions and participate live. So, Chris, could you start the PowerPoint presentation? So mentoring, what is it for me? The next slide. The agenda is that we will be discussing who wins in mentorship. The first breakout session will have the question, what is the status of your club mentoring program? Do you have one or do you not? Or what are the obstacles? What are the success? And if you have any mentees in your group, maybe they can tell us what their experience is. Then we'll talk about the traits of a mentor and a protege, because people don't realize that they would be good candidates for mentors. And some of them are worried about the time factor, but really the work is being done by the protege. We will talk about coaching versus mentoring, and that's important because sometimes you have to step away from mentoring and coach. It could be that your mentee doesn't know how to log into Pathways, or they may have to have some coaching as to how are they going to look in a virtual world, in an in-person world. Then we're going to talk about listening, because listening really is the core to your mentorship. And we're going to discuss what are the steps to take to become a better listener. And then we'll talk about the new Pathways mentor program. Are your members actually electing to go into that curriculum? And then we'll talk about some of the Pathways mentor program and the templates that are available to you. And then we'll end up with a question and answer session. Do we have any questions right now before we start that you'd like to have answered in this workshop? No.
I'm not seeing any right now.
Okay. Well, next slide, please. So who wins? Everybody wins in mentoring. The club wins because you have engaged and excited mentors. And it also helps in retention of more experienced speakers because they have something to contribute. The mentor wins because they get to have a legacy of knowledge and wisdom placed into somebody else. And then it's a ripple effect. You can keep going and going and going. And then the mentee wins because they have access to years of experience, years of knowledge, and they have the comfort of knowing that they have a mentor that cares about them and that really wants them to shine. So it's a win-win-win situation. And I have to say something about the slideshow. Lynn is Chris is helping me because I had a bit of a problem sharing my PowerPoint. So I'll have to say next slide. All right, now we're going to have our first breakout room. And the questions are, does your club have an active mentoring program for your members? And what are your successes and obstacles? And if you have a mentee inside your group, perhaps they can give some information about their experience as well. So we're going to have you go into a breakout room for about 5 minutes and bring you out, and then you'll report on what you found out in your discussion. So Chris, can we put everyone into a breakout room?
That is everybody. People are in breakout rooms?
Okay. All right, so how was that exercise? Did you find out some things? Group 1. Do you have somebody who can summarize what was discussed in group 1?
Do we know who the group numbers were or what the group numbers were?
I know that we were 4.
Oh, 4.
It should have said on the heading of your breakout room who the group numbers were, but if you don't know, just go ahead and speak up and mention who you're speaking for so we know we don't overlap people. How's that?
Okay, room 1, we did it excellent. We bounced off from one another our learnings from being mentors and coach and learning to draw the line between the two. And I thought listening to the ladies, it was very informative.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a formal mentoring program in your club? Do you have somebody assigning it, or does your VP of Education
Lynn,
respond
take it from here.
Pardon me?
Lynn, can you?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. It varied according to clubs. At some of the clubs, they had a high turnover, and so they're just readjusting to having helping bring up the more experienced newer members up to speed. And we were discussing how important it was to have a mentor, especially as you're new to Toastmasters. And then we at Eagles, of course, have very formalized mentoring program, which is very helpful, as well as a roundtable evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Someone else?
Would my team like?
Could our next person speak, please?
Hi, did you want me to speak up on behalf of our group?
Yes, please, Mike.
Sure. We don't have the critical mass at Transit, but we have over 40 members in a formal mentor program. We actually have a chair of mentor program that sits on the club executive. Of course, it's not recognized for DCP training, but she formally sits on the on the executive meetings. And as part of the mentorship team, we meet monthly on Sundays. And I mentored one-on-one. My last session was November, December. One of our members from Bangalore, India, which is 9.5 hours ahead of us. We scheduled 11 a.m. on Thursdays, which is not 8:30 p.m. Bangalore time. and I walked them through level 1. And so we do have a very structured and successful mentor program, and we're now going into our round 2 of mentor for new members. We have, like I said, we have over 40 members. We have 14 DTMs, some of them multiple. And so we actually, I hate to brag, but we've had a DTM mentor every new member.
Wow.
So we are unusual, but we're ranked 9th in the world, as I mentioned before, for a reason. And this is just one of the many reasons.
Mhm.
And now, in speaking on behalf of the rest of the group, as our previous speaker, Dorothy, mentioned, it varies in size. Do we have the critical mass to assign experienced people for new members? That's the challenge. We're looking at turnover and club dropover due to the pandemic. So a variety of factors, but it shouldn't stop anyone that has at least a 2-3 years experience to help out a new club member along the way.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Michael, there's a question from Michelle. What club do you belong to? Can you say?
Yes, my speak, and I'll post it in the chat with the number. And all are welcome from around the world. So I'll put the club name and the club number, and you can search it out.
Okay, great.
And I'll do that right now.
Okay, great. Do we have anyone else that can share what was discussed about mentoring?
Marilyn, I can speak on behalf of Group 4. So we had a variety. So Bruce is a member of several clubs. One of his clubs had a formalized program in place, and they merged that with the VPM role. And then they partnered that basically through their VP membership role. But it's not formal. So we talked about whether or not that created any lack. Was it not as effective as the formal program? And he had given reflection that perhaps it was a more successful situation when it was highlighted as its own entity and not just completely rolled into the VPM, because that can be a lot of extra work to take on.
Mhm.
I have 2 different clubs. My home club is corporate club, and our challenge was, I've never seen a mentoring program. We've talked several times over the last couple of years as an executive about bringing one in. Our challenge being corporate is engagement overall. And so the topic was, perhaps if we'd had that formalized mentoring situation in place, we wouldn't be challenged with that, because now what we have is the struggle to engage. Whereas if the mentoring had been in place, perhaps that engagement would just be a result of that, a positive result. The flip side of that is I'm a member of a brand new club that we just chartered, and we have 17 brand new Toastmasters. So there's only 3 people with any Toastmaster experience. So the challenge there is having enough mentors. But the bonus is they have nothing to go on. These are 17 brand new people. They're setting new protocol, and literally in the last week or 2 since charter, the president is actively linking up members with mentors. And I think that will show success, because if you do it from the beginning and you don't know anything else, that could be successful. Another member of our group is the VP membership, and her challenge is she wants to do the mentoring. Her challenge is how. And that's why we're all here, is to learn how. We all talk about it. There's a path on it. There's rules on it. But the question, I guess, for a lot of us, and that's why we're here, is how do we do this effectively?
Mhm.
So thanks, Marilyn, for running this.
Mhm. Someone else?
It's Claudette here. The challenge we have, we don't presently have a formal mentorship program, but we try to do it informally. We're working on more of a formal mentorship program. But as I think our previous speaker just said, is having more inexperienced members. And something we have considered is going cross-club, speaking to the area director and division director to see if we can go cross-club, to see if we can get some experienced members from the other clubs to help us bring up our new members. So that's what we're working on.
Mhm. Well, that's great. I know that Pathways, I've been invited to a number of new clubs in order to do a pathways training. And that will get them going. Perhaps you can have a mentorship or yes, invite people from other clubs to come and provide some of the information that they require. And mentoring, that would be great as well. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, this is Angela. So in District 60, we have a program called the Helping Hands Program, which would help to match a strong club with one that would need some help. So if the strong club will be able to make the other club a distinguished club, then each club will get like $50 gift certificate to shop at the international store, Toastmasters International Store. So so hopefully that type of incentive and as you mentioned, Miriam, all the benefits that a mentor mentee can gain, that will get people signed up for that program.
Has anybody actually linked up with somebody else, another club in the Helping Hands program?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I think there's going to be some communication that will be coming out more for the Helping Hands program. And, once that happens, then, hopefully that we will get, clubs from both sides to sign up.
Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic. It's getting the word out. It's actually creating or inviting people as they come into your club to investigate being mentored by somebody. And also in this day and age where some of our experienced Toastmasters are thinking, well, what is it for me? I've known everything, I've done everything, but they don't realize that to mentor someone and to actually see them blossom and come out and come alive is an incredible feeling. It's a matter of just being in an audience, and when somebody gets up who is frightened, you sit there and you have this space like, come on, let's go, smiling. They're actually thinking, oh, I'm going to be all right. So it's a matter of connecting with people and actually sharing what you have to say. And for experienced people, it is important to feel that you're contributing even though you've done everything.
Yes. I think for some clubs, it's as you said, one thing leads to another, and they just need to get the ball rolling, in terms of making the club more vibrant, and so that when members and guests attend, they want to be a part of this atmosphere. They want to come back. It's something that they look forward to on a weekly basis. So to generate that type of spirit. When you have a club with low membership, it's kind of it might be tough at first to get that ball rolling, and then if there's someone from the outside that helps them to get that going, then I think it would really be beneficial to the club.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you think about it though, even though you have low numbers in your club, if you're providing a product that is full of energy, that people are actually learning something and can walk away, they will come back. It's
right.
When your members are feeling, oh, we only have 5 or 6 people and, this isn't good. Well, you can provide the excitement and get people to say, yeah, I want to be part of that experience as well. Mm-hmm. And you can also, like Michael has been coming into other clubs and giving speeches. that is an opportunity for you too, or have somebody from the outside come in and give a evaluation.
Yeah, yeah.
I visited some club in Ireland, and I was evaluating one of the fellows, and he was stoic. He didn't move. He had his hands behind his back, and he just talked at us. He didn't do anything. So I'd suggest that he consider the 93% that he wasn't doing, and that was in gestures and voice modulations. And I explained that your words really are musical notes, so it should be going up and down. So he invited me to come back because he was giving a speech. Well, he gave a speech about, and it was in dialogue. He was himself as the stoic person, and then he was talking to his mother, and his mother had vocal variety and gestures and humor and everything that I had asked him to do. And he was saying, yes, this person from Canada came and told me that my face was frozen. And it was fantastic to see him come alive. And the one thing I asked him, I said, well, did you feel the difference between being animated and being stoic? And he said, yes, I am. I did. And now I think he's going to be in a play as a cocky New York gangster.
Oh, wow.
Created a monster. But it's nice to see that people are taking that information. That
Yeah.
club that I visited, I gave a speech to somebody who was giving an icebreaker, and he's an experienced Toastmaster. But he lacked the intensity and the humor and everything. He's coming back and giving his icebreaker again to show the rest of the club, this is, that it's okay to do something over. So it's a matter of inviting people in and having people see a different perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Like, some people, if they're in their club and that's the only club they've ever been to, and they don't know any other way of doing things, and then inviting them to maybe an energized club that has good spirits and a lot of good learnings, some of that can rub off on this other club, right? And their members. I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. So does anyone else have something to say, or do you want to? Who has been a mentee? Michael, what was your experience as a mentee?
Okay, I'm sorry to date myself. We're talking the Reagan era here. I joined in 1984, and I was working for the Royal Bank of Canada at the time down at Royal Bank Plaza, those two gold towers on Front Street. And after walking in some resumes, that's what we did back in the day before the internet, I went down to the food court, and down the hallway was this big yellow banner. And I walked in, and it was Toastmasters, and Ragbeer Dillon, who is a past district international speech winner and a past district governor back in the day, and a George Keenan Award winner, was my first mentor. And I had no clue how lucky I was when I walked in that door. And he was wonderful, and we always kept up to date. Unfortunately, he lost a battle with complications from Alzheimer's, but he was an amazing mentor. Mm-hmm. And so I still take some of the tools that he gave me even today. He said one thing, Marilyn, the temptation is to totally wrap your hands around the mentee. You can't do that. You have to give them some wiggle room. So in this case, when I was mentoring Yaska in India in November, I resisted the temptation to be the evaluator of the speeches. I made sure that there are other people in the club evaluating his speeches, and so that this way he would get two evaluations, one from the evaluator and one from myself, because my set of eyes might see something different. And quite often the evaluator brought up some points I never even thought of. So I avoided that temptation to evaluate the speeches of my mentee. And that was one of the tricks of the trade I learned from my first mentor back in the day.
Mhm. It's a gift that keeps giving, because you as a receiving that becomes a better mentor as well, because you are just passing along what you've learned. I think, Jennifer, you had your hand up, and then we'll move along with the program.
Marilyn?
I'm currently in a mentee and mentor relationship. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Marilyn, I'm
Okay.
currently mentoring a young man in Florida,
Ah,
and he brings so much to me, because he is teaching me about his homeland, which is China. And in return, I am teaching him about Canada and who we are and what we're about. And as he is writing his speeches now, he's sending them to me for clarification for the English language and how we structure our sentences.
mhm.
And to me, that is the most valuable part of mentoring anybody, is their trust in the person that's mentoring them.
Mhm. Mhm, exactly. Jennifer?
Thanks, Marilyn. So I'm currently in a mentor-mentee situation. I'm the mentee, and we meet bi-weekly on Sunday for half an hour to an hour. This is where I've learned to set goals for myself. I work better in a partnership. I've grown, the last 18 years I've done direct sales, for example, and I've learned very quickly that I do a better job even in that if I partner with somebody, if I have someone to be accountable to, not just myself. And so this has really helped me in my Toastmasters. Not a great goal setter. People always think just because I'm a list maker and I can accomplish things that I'm a good goal setter. I'm really not that effective. So having a mentor, actually Chris is my mentor, and she's amazing. She sees things in me and she positions questions for me and she makes me think about things. If other people don't see in you the things you aren't looking for, you'll miss opportunities.
Mhm.
My foray even into district leadership is because somebody else saw things in me. So mentorship is so key. And so my experience being a mentee with Chris is now allowing me to be a mentor to someone in my own home club.
Absolutely.
So I transition what I'm learning there and I'm taking it into this relationship. So it's an amazing learning experience on both sides.
Mhm. Mhm. And you get to leave a legacy in your mentees. So Chris, can you bring up our next slide? All right. I wanted to bring this up just so that you can actually see yourself in the traits that are up there. Experience and knowledge, positive and supportive, respectful and caring, and committed and dependable. Can you see yourself in those traits and how it could be a successful mentoring partnership? Can you see some people in your clubs that would actually benefit from knowing that their experience, their positive and supportive attitude, their respectfulness and commitment could be put to good use for either the new member or an experienced member? Sometimes we need, as experienced speakers and Toastmasters, sometimes we need another viewpoint or another perspective. Now, the flip side of that is the successful protege. So Chris, can you flip that? A successful protege is adaptable with desire and willingness to learn. There are some people who want to be a mentee, but they're not really willing to go all in. There's a willingness to consider new ideas. an openness to receive feedback, and that is really important. Sometimes people don't want the feedback, even though they say they do, they really don't, and they'll struggle with that. They're respectful for the mentee's time and boundaries. That's important. Accountable for their own self-growth and development, and willingness to share goals and information. And we're going to get into that at the very end, because I think the new mentor program really gets people to reflect and assess where they are, and then they include their goals, and the mentor actually guides them through their goals. So can you see in your, if we could stop that, Chris, and bring up the gallery? Can you see how the traits of the coaches and the proteges, how they can be matched? Is that a helpful information for you that you can bring back to your clubs about how, as a actual selling point? I see a few nodding of heads and whatnot, yes. Claudette?
Certainly. I think there's definitely a need. As I mentioned before, we have about, I would imagine, probably 2 or 3 experienced members, and the rest are, new members to the club. But I can see how the match can happen and the growth that can take place. And because of that, I think it will retain members, because I think so far we have been probably losing a couple. So I can see us going forward with the program more. Thanks.
If you actually present to them the traits of a successful, and you say, you have all that, people like to know that they are needed and they could do it. And it doesn't mean that they have to spend all of their time mentoring. It could be, that's something that the mentee and the protege really negotiates at the very beginning. But it's very important if you want to retain your members, especially in the pandemic, you have to present to them what's in it for them. And what's in it for them is the merge of the both traits. Okay, Chris? Coaching. I'd like to spend a little time talking about the coaching versus the mentoring. And there is a difference. The coaching really is focused on one thing, and you're going to be leading your mentee through that coaching. And the coaching could be that your mentee is a new person who doesn't know anything about pathways, so you would actually get somebody to help them navigate it, or you yourself would be the coach in that. It could be that people don't know how to present themselves on a virtual meeting, and that's very important because it's in a square. So what do you do there? What are the things you can do? So it's a coaching towards a specific skill or a specific goal, and it is, you determine what the tasks are and the steps for accomplishment. Where if we look at the next slide, mentoring really is focused on multiple longer goals, but it's also directed by the mentee. You find out what do they want to accomplish, and then you're there to guide them through it for the accomplishment. It could be going back and touching base. Where are you in your your goals, and looking at what is it that we have to do in order to move forward. And the important part is the protege determines the future actions. If they don't really want to go down a path based on your advice, then you have to learn to let go and allow them to have that. And you may be that you have to, excuse me, allow your mentee to fail in order to bring them back on the path. But it's up to them. The task and the steps of how they're going to do it is going to be determined by the protege. Now, the breakout room. Listening is a valuable skill, especially for a mentoring relationship. How do you know when somebody is listening? And we'll break out into different breakout rooms and then come back and discuss listening.
Give me just a second. We're just dropping people into rooms now. There we go. You're going off to your breakout room. Please do remember the questions and try and remember your breakout room number if you can. Everybody back now, Marilyn.
All right. What did you discover or what did you discuss about listening? Because I think listening with your ears as well as your eyes, as well as looking at somebody's, how do you feel when you're talking to that individual? What did you find out from your discussions?
Yeah, hi Marilyn. I'm in representing room 1, and what we discussed is that how do we know if someone's listening? Is that if they're paraphrasing, what you're saying, and that they're perhaps doing what you want them to do or ask them to do, but also listening and also agreeing with what they're hearing are two separate things. They may be listening, but they may not, follow through or believe with what the person is saying. And I think one of the things is that if a person is speaking and they are being told or mentored a particular way, and if they may not totally agree at first, if their, say, speech evaluator says the same thing, then that might have more merits if just more than one person is reconfirming, what the person should be doing to enhance their communication or skills or presentation skills, what have you.
Sometimes it's just setting the rules of engagement at the very beginning of your mentoring so that you know how do you want to be mentored, and it's actually being an active listener.
Yeah, good point.
Anyone else? What did you find out in your groups, Michelle, Jennifer?
So I'm representing room 3. So we talked about it from 2 different directions. So first of all, regarding the mentee, the big answer is how do we know they're listening is by their action and the results that they get. But in the smaller increment, before you get to that, is when you are doing the mentoring sessions, the engagement of questions back and forth. So even just the way you're doing this session, when you give us information, then you say, who's experienced that? How's that felt? So it's that back and forth so that you can understand. And also, if you're not getting that engagement, you ask them to relay. It's kind of, we were joking about how it's like parenting. You say it, and then you ask them to relay it back. So you know that, like, listening and hearing are 2 different things. They can listen to you all they want, but what are they hearing? Are they actually hearing what you're saying? And so there's that engagement. Then we looked at the other end, is that we as the mentors also have to listen. So like you said, the difference between coaching and mentoring. Coaching, it's directed by the coach, but mentoring is directed by the mentee.
Yeah.
So if they're not getting results and they're not doing things and we're getting frustrated, it could be because as the mentors, we're not listening to what they came into mentoring for. What are their needs? What are their goals? It's not about what we want them to accomplish. It's about what they want to accomplish. So we also have to be listening to them. So it's a 2-way.
It's tough to
Yeah. To step back.
step back, and because you know that
Yes.
you're going to be going into a situation, but they have to experience that situation in order to move ahead. But it is really tough to remain silent sometimes. Anyone else? Did you find out something that was a little different than what has already been discussed?
Well, if I may, I'm Michelle, and I was in room 4.
Mhm.
So a couple of things that did come about was, as Jennifer just mentioned, it's a two-way relationship. So it's exactly what she said. It's on the basis of the mentor and the mentee. The other thing is also on you know that somebody's listening if you see them put into action the suggestions that you make. So you'll see, like you mentioned in your experience with the gentleman in Ireland. So you see, even Michael mentioned it, you see changes in their speeches later on. Another thing that we spoke about was that if you know somebody's listening, is also from their body language. So if you are speaking, you're saying something, from the way they are either taking notes or they bend forward because they want to listen a little more intently and concentrate on what you're saying. So it's also body language sometimes that gives you a sense that somebody is listening. Yeah, and I think a lot of people did cover the other points that we mentioned.
Just think, this has caused a lot of problems with listening, because how often do you see somebody looking at a phone and then they're going, but they're not really listening. So it's undivided attention to the individual. Chris, could you put the next slide up, please? So the steps to becoming a better listener, you've already talked about that. It's the respect for the individual's point of view. It's relaxing and remaining engaged, giving your full attention. It's reserving judgment, and that sometimes is hard to do because you want them to succeed and you have a different perspective than they. So sometimes you have to reserve your judgment on something. And you have to notice their comfort zone and their excitement. Sometimes if they can say, yes, 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 I'm doing well, I'm excited, and their body language, their voice and everything else is not showing it, you have to then prod a little bit to see what's going on. And avoid interrupting. A lot of times you want to leap in and say your piece, but sometimes you have to lay back and listen. And then ask the clarifying questions. Am I right in what I'm hearing? And then find out the instances where you can emphasize with their experience. For a newbie, they'll say, oh, I'm really nervous. And then you could go into when you were a newbie and how you were feeling, so that they know that they're not alone with that. And then give nonverbal cues. That is really important, and that's important anywhere when you're in a Toastmasters or outside in the real world, where you actually are listening, you're nodding your head, they know that you're actually with them. And then summarize and repeat to demonstrate. So that was mentioned before as well. Summarize, paraphrase it so that you know that that's what you heard. So listening is very important. And if we actually take into consideration some of these traits, then it'll be a successful relationship. And Chris, the next one. Rather than go into the breakout room, why don't we just have everybody just say what the answers to these questions. Have you and your members elected to complete the Pathways Mentor Program curriculum? And that's something that is presented after you've done your introduction to mentoring in level 2, I believe. So
Yes.
can we get back into the gallery view and see how many have actually considered going into the program? Or do you know about the Pathways Mentoring Program? Michael? You're muted.
You're on mute.
You're muted though.
We've elected to do this. This is what the hard copy looks like. There's 3 parts to it. Assess your mentoring skills. Part 2 is mentoring, which is your one-on-one experience. And then the third project is advanced mentoring. And this is where you get credit for mentoring 6 months or more. So any of you looking to complete a DTM or already completed this, it's the 6-month club mentor program. And so the mentoring and the 6-month mentoring require 5 to 7 minute speeches on your experience mentoring one-on-one and your experience of club mentoring a new club that's just been chartered. And so anyone that's looking to complete the DTM and complete the 6-month mentoring program, you can successfully complete the Pathways Mentor Program by doing this, or you can just mentor a Toastmaster for 6 months. But I've found the mentoring club mentoring program very rewarding. I've done it twice. And I put in the chat box, there is a recognition for this.
Yeah.
It's the Pathways Mentor Program. That's the acronym that's used on your award. It looks kind of weird. It looks like the one when you did the old high performance leadership credit and your education history. And so that's the credit you get. Now, I'm not sure whether we get a certificate or not.
Yes, you do.
Because I do the print version, but on the electronic version, I'm sure there's an immediate certificate that you can get. It should show up on the dashboards. It's not a DCP credit, but it's certainly a nice feather in your cap for your club when the district people at the top are looking at club accomplishments.
Yes, you're designated as a Pathways mentor, and you do get a certificate from TI once you do it. And we'll get to that in a couple of slides. But I think, Bruce, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I am interested in doing the Pathways mentoring project in Pathways. I just haven't gotten around to it yet because I don't think I'm at that level. I haven't even advanced past level 1 yet. So, but I know you can do other stuff in other projects in the levels. Just haven't gotten around to it. I think I'm waiting for my HPL project to end on February 23rd. And that my 2 older clubs, none of the members have done it yet. So I don't have any experience with seeing how anyone has done the Pathways mentoring project. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, this is new territory, Bruce. I believe I'm the first one, District 86, to formally apply for this recognition.
Okay.
And I just think it's just an awareness thing. I don't think that the clubs are aware that if anyone's completed some form of one-on-one plus their 6-month mentorship, that they're eligible for this. So it's just creating awareness that the program is there.
Okay.
So this program is it you can mentor either a club or an individual?
You can do an individual, and you can do an individual outside of Toastmasters.
That's correct.
If you want to, but it gives you an actual roadmap of mentoring, and it may help your clubs establish a mentoring one. It's once you do the introduction, you're given an opportunity to enter into a different curriculum. And so it could be, so Chris, could we have the next slide, please? Okay, this is a separate, the Pathways Mentor Program is a separate learning curriculum. And as Michael said, there are 3 projects in it, and each one of them is meant to apply to a newbie or it could be, well, not a newbie, it's for a mentor. So the first thing you do is you assess your readiness, and then you do, and that I think is important, because you actually explore what are your goals, what are your expertise and your expectations going into a mentoring. So it goes that much further to get you ready to mentor. And then the second project is you start a 3-month mentoring so that you can put whatever you've learned before about the mentoring relationship into practice. And then the advanced mentoring is a 6-month mentoring where you would take into consideration everything you've done to ready yourself as mentor. You would use the templates that they have, which are really good, and it's easy to collect the information as you go along in your relationship. And you actually learn a lot about yourself as a mentor, as well as your mentee or your protege, as they say. They get to the access to all of your expertise. So it's well worth it. I've just started it myself, and it's a good reflection tool, actually.
If I could just add a point, Marilyn, the mentoring, the 3-month mentoring part, the second part, that's quite fluid. I'm not saying I'm an expert because I've completed it, but this is just based on my personal experience of mentoring people over the years, is that people learn at different paces.
Yeah.
And so it might be 3 months or more. In the case of my mentee, he was a really quick learner, and we went through level 1 in 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that 3-month is just a guidance part, but as far as advanced mentoring, yes, it has to be at least 6 months.
Yeah, it depends on the mentee. It really does. So Chris, can you change the slide, please? And this is the designation, the Pathways Mentor. To be designated as a Pathways Mentor, you must be a member in good standing for 6 months. You must have completed one entire path in Pathways, and you complete the Pathways Mentor program. And as a result, you would be designated as a Pathways Mentor, but you'd also get an actual certificate to say that. And the next. In the readiness project of the program, you will have an assessment, a self-assessment template, and I think it's a great tool. It's a living document, so as you go along, you may want to add to whatever long-term goals you have, add to the expertise and experiences you have and your expectations. So it's a great way of readying yourself to be a mentor, but also it's a great way to assess where you are. And we're always in a situation of assessing where we are in our Toastmasters journey, as well as just in life. Next one. So there are a lot of templates that you can use in your mentoring as well. There's a Protege success plan where they actually give you their long-term as well as their short-term goals. There's a sheet that you can use to track the monthly goal check. There's a mentor communication log where it actually records the actions that, what was actually talked about in the session and what are the actions that are coming out. There's a Protege self-assessment too, so they actually get to reflect on what do they want from this mentoring project. And then there is a mentor and protege evaluation that is just between you and your mentee or protege in order to find out how are you in that particular mentoring relationship. The next one, please. So now we're at the question and answer session. So we'll get back to our gallery and do you have any specific questions that you want to ask at this point? Do you find that this is helped you get a better idea about the importance of mentoring?
I'll ask a question. I brought up in our second breakout room. I was in room 2,
Mhm.
and I was mentioning before we closed out the meeting that in my Wednesday club we're pretty much all advanced, so there's no really issue there. But in my Tuesday home club, we had 3 members that still have not enrolled in Pathways. One of them has, but hasn't done her icebreaker yet. The other 2, one has been a member for probably 4 years now and still hasn't enrolled in Pathways. And the other one joined, I believe it was the summertime, August or September. We have verbally mentioned offering a mentor to these people several times, also in writing and emails. We have mentioned or suggested doing one-on-one Pathways training sessions with them several times. Haven't gotten any replies back from either one of them. And now my concern is this is now mid-February.
Mhm.
The second, or the free path, the offer is going to expire for them at the end of March. Well, they haven't even enrolled in Pathways yet, so they need to do the first one or get the first one under their name, and then do the second one. And that just, so they don't seem to be listening to us more advanced people that are trying to get through to them.
Mhm.
So, and as Jennifer said, it is a two-way street, because the advanced people in the club are verbally announcing it, mentioning it in emails and stuff. But if they're not acting on it, what can we do?
Have you tried having a section in your meeting where you go live onto the TI website and have them actually choose their path?
We have a Pathways ambassador or guide in our club, and she's done, I think, probably 3 Pathways tutorials thing over the years. One, I believe on one of them she went live, but in the offer to them to do one-on-one, it has been mentioned that we would do a live session with them and go through their assessment, and then make sure that they choose their first path with them live with the mentor or person doing the tutorial with them. So they need to act.
Yes,
They need to take us up on our offer to help
Yeah.
them.
So Bruce, do we know why they're not acting?
Laziness, probably pure laziness.
Can I make a short opinion on this?
Sure.
It's not very popular, and I've addressed this with 4 different district directors in 2 districts. Is sometimes it's easy to blame the members. I think we have to address Pathways itself, especially for corporate clubs. I believe base camp manager and the program needs to be simplified. There's a lot of moving parts to it. It's not complicated. The millennials, the age 25 to 40, are totally wired into what we're doing with the Digital Pathways program. We just need to make things just a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, and one of the 2 that haven't enrolled is in that category. So I don't understand why she's not gotten involved with it. But the other woman, she is in her 60s, so she has been nervous about the whole online situation kind of thing. But I'm gonna give it another try, especially with the deadline coming up of March 31st. I'm gonna definitely be mentioning it at least twice. That, you know,
With calling them directly, because we have a list of, the officers have a list of their contact numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
We're calling them
I-
directly, getting them on the phone, and maybe like what's in it for them, like
Yeah.
just telling them that if they get on pathways and complete their levels, not only do they get credit for completing the levels, but their club will get credit by becoming, a distinguished club. So
Mhm.
I think it's our responsibility to, I say this with great humility, given the company that I'm keeping in our room today. I completed my Pathways DTM in December, and I have 2 legacy DTMs. And I'm trying to tell these people, I'm age 61, an old dog can learn new tricks. So I think it's how we communicate it as well.
Yeah.
But what I did personally was to call one of the members on a weekend, and she was okay with that. We agreed. And we walked through it, getting us set up, and we walked through every step. What I found is reaching out to them individually, whether by a phone call or email. So that has helped me in terms of getting that member on Pathways successfully. But you're right, the millenniums, there's no walking, they walk through it on their own. I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but we have to work with each one.
Yeah, and I agree with what Dorothy just mentioned about the original rollout out of Pathways. Oh, my mouth is right. Was intimidating, but since I got temporarily laid off in mid-April, I've been spending I've been available to spend a lot more time in Toastmasters and on Pathways, and I've seen the improvement from when it first rolled out. It has gotten a lot better, and people just need to spend time in it.
If somebody doesn't like the online situation, there is print.
Yes.
I have a member who is 91 years old, and she said she was not going to be on computers and everything else. I bought her a print material, gave it to her, and she's now completed level 1 and level 2.
Nice.
So it's a matter of comfort. You have an option. It's a little more expensive, but it's an option if somebody doesn't want to go online as well. But I think, yes, definitely, if you could phone them up and talk to them and say, well, why isn't it? I'll walk you through it. At least choose your path so that you have an option of getting another path.
Thank you for all your words of wisdom. I will definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, it is different. And Michael knows, I have 3 legacy DTMs, and people who have their legacy DTMs are saying, no, it's not the same. But really, if you look into Pathways and actually read the project and do what they want you to do, you can learn a lot. The communication project is the communication style project is fantastic, because you get to know what are the types of the styles, and also they give you some tips on how to deal with people that aren't your style. Like an analytical person needs the facts before they make a decision. They don't want to have social time. They want the facts. The direct person is just give me what I want. Well, then give them what they want. So it's actually quite an interesting project, and you can take that outside in your family, in your work life. It's fantastic. But people need to actually get into it, and you can persuade people by actually doing the projects and they seeing what's it all about. They'll want to know more. Are there any other questions, or is there anything that you could take away today?
I do have a takeaway, and I just asked Angela, do you have my email?
yes, thank you.
if you want to send me, I'm going to leave after this, but just send me an email. We can discuss transit on a separate occasion,
Okay,
if that's what you were looking to do.
sure, thanks.
I'd like to thank everybody. Very well done, and all the points well covered. And Marilyn, thank you for another great job.
Oh, well, thank you very much. If you have any questions after this, then just email me, and I hope that you really embrace mentorship. Chris and I were talking, and she's saying, wouldn't it be nice if you had a mentor at 10 years old? And I said, yes. If I had a mentor when I was 10 years old, I wouldn't be walking away from people. I would have had a mentor say, just say hello, introduce yourself. Or university, my professors kept saying, Marilyn, you knew more than I. Why don't you challenge me? So a mentor would have said, go in and challenge them. You don't have to be perfect. So it is an opportunity for us to really inspire our members and get them rolling. So are there any other questions? And if not, then we can call this meeting adjourned. I would like to thank our Zoom master, because she bailed me out with my PowerPoint. It was not working just before you came on board. And Chris, do you have anything you would like to say?
Thank you, Marilyn. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. Mentorship is one of the greatest benefits I've received in Toastmasters. Marilyn has been one of my own mentors. And it is great to see so many people who are interested in really developing this more in your clubs and bringing this to more Toastmasters. It's one of the best things we offer here. It's one of the best ways that we can apply this in our Toastmasters lives, in our businesses, and in our homes. Imagine having a mentor for your children. Wouldn't that be great? So it's terrific to see so many people. The video will be available at the District 60 YouTube channel within the next week or so. You can watch for it there. If you're not sure how to access our YouTube channel, it's that little square with the red triangle in it at the top right of the district website. Marilyn, is it okay if I put your email address in the chat for those who don't have it?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And there's also a survey in the chat. So if you enjoyed this workshop or have comments on what you'd like to see in future, what you want to see more of, take the survey, let us know. We do actually look at your responses and value those. Thanks for being here today. Thank you, Marilyn, for an amazing and informative presentation. I know I learned more to add to my own knowledge of mentoring. It's been a great morning.
Mm-hmm. And as my mother would say,
Thanks so much, Marilyn.
Well done.
Thank you.
As my mother would say, if not you, then who? So please consider it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Marilyn. That was
Thanks for
wonderful.
Marilyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank